Poop and Mike, they called him. You remember who was Cooper the Pooper?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't Bill Cooper.
I think he was.
Bill Cooper was the guy from the F-Files episode that ran the militia that was part also the Grudge 13 myth.
Was it maybe Ray Cooper?
Ray Cooper, yeah.
What arc is this?
5 or something? God damn. Yeah. Let's stop.
6?
Oof.
So we had one. The first one was about the Nazi Satanists and Atomwaffen.
Yeah.
Then the
Americans, mostly.
The second one was about like history of Balkan nationalism.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then the third one was American fascists.
Yeah. Yes.
But
a historical review.
Classical ones.
The big ones.
Not Nazi Satanists, but starting from...
Less esoteric.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one was the one that we did previously, which was about... Well, we said it's about like Yugoslav, meaning Serbian and Croatian, anti-communist terrorists during the Second World War. But
right. I remember that story.
But we started from the 19th century or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, I think that one was about, that was about the fascism in the Balkans. So we had wartime, pre-war.
Well, it was about we wanted to make it about his terrorists, but we did like a kind of a prehistory of that.
I think like the last maybe 10 episodes of that arc were actually about what the arc was about.
I mean,
well, we didn't start in the 19th century with that one. We started in the 1920s.
Yeah, you started with
the teens and 20s.
You did. I kind of went.
He went off on a tangent.
Yeah,
that's right. Went to Alpes and the whole
the
the Black Hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he did. This time, fellas, Arc 5, right?
Arc 5, yeah, is basically part 2 of Arc 3.
Yeah,
you're going back to America.
Yes.
Arc 3.2.
Back to the USSA. Putting the SS in the USSA.
We
doesn't mean Soviet socialist.
We covered a lot of like American fascists, but we didn't talk about many of the very important ones. I mean, important in a very relative.
Important to us and God.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, considering they are British Israelites, I guess.
That's what I meant. That and that white people are the God, right? They're like the race. The race is the God.
Yeah.
Aren't we back in that part of the world now?
You mean the white man's Bible?
Yeah. Yes. Well, what I mean is welcome back to The Empire Never Ended with Boris, Fritz, and Ray.
Hello.
Hey.
2024.
Yeah.
2024. This is the year the whole world becomes fucking fascist, apparently. Yeah. And we're here.
I mean, it's the election year, right? Everywhere in the world, pretty much. All the big countries are having big elections. They're all going to elect someone crazy.
Yeah, crazy and horrible.
We're going to go into World War VI.
Yes. But we get plenty of Intermarium sequels out of that. We get some fun skeletons in the closet for world leaders all over. But not this arc.
No.
This arc's all about America.
Yes.
You got
we didn't originate on this planet.
Guess what else we got in the studio?
We got a soundboard.
Guess what else we got in the studio, people?
Stand up like men. Stand up like men.
That's right.
This has the potential to be very annoying.
Yeah, no, it's going to be extremely annoying. That's
but all of these
you do have an air horn on there, right?
I do. I loaded up not only the air horn, but our precious fuck this. Our air horn gong, baby. Yeah.
But most of the sound bites you made are from the Arc 3, right?
Well, yeah. I just kind of like was going through. We're going through Arc 3 today. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about like what we learned from that arc, moving into this now new Arc 5. The connective tissues we figured out, where we're going and why. And in the process of doing that, I came up with a shit ton of weird little Nazi cards for a Nazi card game that I guess I made midway through that arc, and also a bunch of fun little sounds like this one.
Free holy. Free holy. Free holy. Free holy.
That's William Luther Pierce saying
Free holy.
free holy. Yeah, so I'll probably just intersperse them throughout the episode today. We'll see what happens.
We also announced previously that we have a new kind of type of schedule. We're going to do 5 episodes per month. And from now on, we're going to stick with that plan.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So it's 3 episodes. So it's first 3 episodes in a week, first 3 weeks in a month, it's 1 episode per week. And then the last week of the month, it's 2 episodes is the idea.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a good one.
That's correct. Yes, that is our Pathe Mathos.
That is
Moving
our
forward.
Pathe Mathos.
That's the Pathe we have drawn for ourselves. And that's where we're going. Where we've been. It's been a while since we've spoken to the free listeners out there in the world. Patrons had a couple weird things to handle.
They did.
Sent them down a trip.
To Rotharon.
To the underground. And all the tricky politics down there. But you free listeners, last time you heard of us, we were talking something about maybe starting Arc 5 someday, and then we vanished.
Yeah.
That's true.
But guess
But
what?
in the
That
meantime,
day is today.
In the meantime, we got this nice new setup with a soundboard.
We got a soundboard. We got
to annoy you with.
Upgraded some microphones. We're listening to ourselves through headphones simultaneously. This is a luxury.
It's a new beginning.
It's a new beginning for a new year and a new arc. It's all lining up.
But
You
what
call
would this
that thought pattern?
Yeah, but this new arc, as you hinted at, Ray, is not completely new.
No,
and it is kind of a continuation of Arc 3.
Yes,
and Arc 3 was a fucking long ass time ago.
It really was. Yes.
Yeah.
Arc 4 went on for quite some time.
Yes. Yeah.
Like well over a year.
What did we cover in Arc 3? Do we want to go through some of those episodes?
I mean,
Nature
I think like
took her course.
It was a lot about nature, about
it was, yes,
natural order. You know.
Well, we have to show them how the sausage is made,
right?
And because in planning this arc, we had to go back to Arc 3 and review what we had missed.
Yes,
and
that's what we've been doing for the last few weeks. We were thoroughly planning this arc.
Well, Fritz also made Hodge to the Vatican.
Not what I was doing. Yeah. Fritz, yeah. And what happened to Fritz there was that he got a little enthusiastic about a side project, a little RPG we've been doing, and it just broke. It just broke him, and he was taken on an emergency vacation to Italy, where he communed with his people at the Vatican, and watched a bunch of shit explode.
A spiritual journey.
It was. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about things I do and don't like about cities. And
you got a sweet medallion of Our Lady of
I did. Our Demon of Fatima. I went into the actual seat of St. Peter's, the not Vatican City, but right there in Rome. It's what the fuck is it called? Basilica of what a
Basilica di San Giovanni Laterano.
The Basilica of fucking fuck all. I don't know what it's called. It's not St. Peter's Basilica. It's Basilica of, God damn it.
Archbasilica of San John Lateran.
Kamal's gonna be so mad at me. The actual place where the actual chair that fucking the Pope is supposed to sit and rule from. We went there with these huge...
His throne.
The throne. And there's these huge, massive doors that come from the old Roman Senate that they slapped on the front of this thing. And there in the gift shop, when I was looking for souvenirs for Pope Pius the 12th, the Ratline Pope, because he built a lot of shit there.
Are there any souvenirs for him?
No, all of Rome is a souvenir to him. The entire Vatican City is a souvenir to him. Like he got plenty. I was looking for like little bobbleheads and shit. They don't really make them for him. A lot of Francis bobbleheads. He's the friendly one.
Do they actually have bobbleheads? Or do they have like the little wind up popes?
They have a bunch of little cute guys. A lot of cute like Francis action figures and stuff. There's like he's very.
What about other popes? Like, is it only Francis?
No, you can get a bunch of popes. They just.
I mean, John Paul II was.
There's a shit ton of John Paul II stuff there. Not a lot of bobbleheads necessarily, but there's a lot lots of like respectful things there.
The ones that were like got married and stuff that secretly back in the day.
Oh, those guys. No, it's like there's like a top 10.
They sell tickets to heaven. And
there's like a tight top 10. Although I'll tell you, Pius X is there. You can get a lot of Pius X swag if you're into like the original efforts to the church to attack modernism in encyclicals, which I am. But I just ended up with this Nostra Signora di Fatima card with a little medallion in it and the demon telling these children that they're going to die. And so I treasured that, and that really helped me come back to sanity. Because, man, if you want to go to a city that reminds you of fascism constantly, it's definitely Rome and Vatican City. The architecture there is brutal, and it's cold, and everyone's cold all the time, and people go outside to get warm, and it's madness. And all the architecture really feels like you are living in a state bureaucracy. Like it feels like.
So you didn't like it?
I didn't like the architecture. People there are really cool, really nice people. But then we went to Naples. And that's a totally different thing. And whereas Rome feels like a museum to the worst people ever. Like all the people that made up words like state are from there. Like it's fucking ridiculous. So people are awesome. But then in Naples, you go there, and in Rome, you can't like touch anything. Everything's cordoned off with ropes, and to prevent like I guess tourists from destroying it. But in Naples, they just fucking throw bombs at churches. They don't give a shit there. They throw like explosives at like an 800-year-old church because it's the weekend.
I have a friend from Rome who I like, and he hates Rome.
Yeah,
but he loves living in Germany, so I don't think I should.
Can't trust him.
No,
can't trust that guy. No.
Suspicious.
People in Rome are super cool. It's hard to see how there's so much like it's hard to see fascism when you're there. Really relaxed group of people.
Yeah.
But man, it can get you down. All that stone. Oof.
D'Annunzio was a relaxed kind of guy too,
Yeah,
they were all fucking insufflating drugs.
That's right. Yeah.
There's definitely a different school of fascism.
That was the first attempt, the dry run, they called it. Yeah, but
it was the nudist yoga cocaine school of
that's true, which didn't come back until like Atomwaffen. DMT though. Yeah,
not nudist. They're American.
No,
prudes.
Yeah, so that's I was getting my head right out there. I was finding pizza, learning what things like scroll are and how much I love it. And then hung out with Kemal out there. Got to see our friend Kemal for a while.
Nice.
And that was it. So my head's right. Came back here. Turns out I still have this job.
Your head is going to be very wrong very soon.
I'm ready for it.
Because if there's one thing that Arc 3 taught us, it's that American Nazis are very, very special.
Yeah.
But we made a system that we do one arc about Americans, one arc about the Balkan people, and then when you get so sick and super depressed by covering one of these areas, you refresh yourself by talking about this.
Another horrible thing.
Yes, but for the first few weeks at least, it's kind of refreshing and fun.
Well, this is the idea of the Turkish bath. You go into a scalding hot pool, and then you jump into a freezing pool, and back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
And it lets you live forever or something.
Wait, but the Turkish bath's a steam bath, no? That's a...
Well, I don't know. It's some kind of bath.
Whatever.
It was a Turkish bath in Hungary. I don't know what that means. If it's maybe it's a Hungarian bath.
It's a Hungarian bath.
Yeah. A lot of codes you got to know to hang out in a Hungarian bath. There's a lot of subtle codes there if you don't want to make a new friend. There's a lot of like pretty normal things you might think to do in a bath that are like straight up signals
offensive.
There. No, not offensive.
Okay.
No. Looking for a good time.
Okay.
These are some very subtle signals. But luckily, there's always some old dude there that will help you learn them. So,
just you avoid
just so you know,
strange situations.
Yeah. It's a lot of inner leg touching in a Hungarian bath. I'll tell you that.
All right,
for explaining things. What are we talking about? America. So,
yeah. I mean. Maybe we can.
Where's the monster truck music? The
Oh yeah, shit. That
do you have that
that's
on
a
the
preset.
soundboard?
That's a motherfucking preset.
Do you actually have it on there?
No, I have this though. I have this.
No.
You don't like it?
No. There we go.
That's better.
All right, this is going to wear off soon. I promise.
I don't think it will, actually.
I think you're right. I have an infinite amount of banks I can make, and nothing but space.
I think some of the listeners will hate it, but I think we won't.
We put our listeners through a lot.
Yes.
They've been through way more than me getting a new sound pad.
Like
goats.
Like goats, 5 episodes on Ezra Pound, for example.
Goats.
5 episodes on Ezra Pound.
And there will be more.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see that on the list.
Yeah. Ezra Pound has been added to the list.
Well, listen, I found a new book, like a newish book that was published, I think, since we covered Ezra Pound, which is about Ezra Pound and his connections with American fascism and fascism in general.
We got a little bit into that with that Casper guy.
Same author, I think, called Alec Marsh.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Yeah, I think that might be him. Yeah.
He did a new book about Ezra Pound.
Okay, I remember you saying the whole time you were doing the Ezra Pound part of that arc that you wish you had more Ezra Pound to read.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he said.
Exactly, if I recall. That it was not
both in public on the show and in private conversation.
Yes.
He said, I can't wait to read more Ezra Pound.
It was painful, but I re-listened to those episodes and I think I liked them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that guy's really fascist.
You need sometimes to torture yourself a little bit to get something good.
Huh.
Yeah.
Look, we're not a therapy show.
We did decide at least because we're taking you through now, hopefully today, what we talked about in arc 3. And I was looking at all my notes from that arc, and there was one character or movement that was suspiciously missing from all of my previous notes, all the rest of which I have. And that's, of course, creativity and Ben Klassen. And I think I might have deleted it because I don't care to revisit that.
Yeah.
I don't know why that particularly destroyed me in
They're
the
like
way
somehow
that it did.
specifically disgusting.
Yeah, and really mind-numbingly dumb.
I mean, we say this about most of the things that we cover,
but we're no longer surprised by it.
No, but there's something specifically disgusting about the creativity movement, which is...
You mean about nature's eternal religion?
Yeah.
The white man's Bible?
Nature took her course.
There's like something very, very, very American about them.
Yeah. Well, it's not more American than like the American Nazi Party or...
What's more American than the American Nazi
I think
Party?
it is like a few nuances more American. Because it's like... American Nazi Party is very American, but at least they have some, they have lots of references to, like, they're kind of...
Yeah, they want to do that European National Socialism type stuff.
They're like Nazi LARPers, so they have this connection with German, the Reich and so on, at least in some...
Yeah, they like to see Prussian soldiers marching around.
Yeah.
Helmets and...
Yeah. And then, creativity is so somehow... I don't know, specifically very American.
The white race, nature's greatest miracle.
Yeah.
I just remembered they made a tabletop RPG. I completely forgot about that. Do you remember that?
Mm-mm.
There was a creativity
really?
tabletop RPG, and we considered maybe playing it. And I looked it up, and it is infamous in tabletop RPG circles for being the second worst tabletop RPG game ever made and published.
For sure, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's
only the second worst.
We did talk a little bit about it, but the main thing was that you, as a white character, are almost completely you're vulnerable to everything. Every single enemy, which is another race, is stronger than you.
Thing.
No, because they do this to themselves. They have to make themselves somehow the victims of everything.
Yes.
Well, it's like the video game, right?
But yeah, it is like the video game. But their gun in the game, the gun is what gains skills. The gun is what changes. You learn more about the gun, and the gun is what gets you out of the situation. So you have a constantly evolving gun with a character that never changes and is bad at everything.
It would be interesting to have a psychoanalytical perspective of this.
Absolutely.
Interesting and fast, I think. Probably a pretty quick one.
The white race, nature's miracle. That's also really bad at everything.
Yes.
But the gun.
Inferior to all other races.
But the gun. That's right.
Why do you think they're specifically kind of were disgusting or hard for you to cover? Do you have any ideas?
I think it's because I read the White Man's Bible, Nature's Eternal Religion, and that it's so half-assed, and that all of their followers are the biggest boneheads of the boneheads.
Yeah.
Like some of the other ones, like they have some people that feign some sort of knowledge about things or knowledge of certain other subjects. And this is just like, it appeals to the people that adopted it the most, the Rahowa fucking resistance records, like Nazi bonehead idiots. The kind of, I want to kill a random minority type of Nazi, as opposed to,
My first association when I hear their name is like remembering, I think from the 90s, like Matt Hale being a guest on the Jerry Springer show.
Yes.
And then like having these fights with some black people who were there with his skinheads. And it's all seen. I don't know, at the time when I was seeing that, I was like very like, America is a very strange place.
I mean, this is a lot of the people in that arc, though. Like, I think Jerry Springer came up at least 3 or 4 times in that arc. Because also in the Aryan Nations, don't forget, there's
August Christ.
The one that told Jerry Springer that he was going to turn his family into soap.
Yes.
Yeah, but he ended up getting arrested for
pedophilia.
Pedophilia. Hold on, I have an air horn gong for that.
He was like one of Joshua Sutter's mentors. No?
Yes, he is Joshua Sutter's
That's right.
mentor. That's the wonderful Aryan Nations. I mean, this is what we're going back to, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the word we're going back to. The magical critters of America.
But you covered Aryan Nations, right?
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, that was, of course, our very our most juvenile moment.
That was
on the show.
Could not possibly have been our most juvenile moment.
It's up there. Dick butt.
Dick butt. Okay,
Dick
but
butt.
what about what's his fucking name? Heinz Sponknoble. I mean, like,
okay, but that's already his name. We turned Richard Gurnt Butler into
Dick Girth Butt.
Dick Girth Butt.
Yeah. Okay, you're
on
right.
Dick Butt.
All right, maybe.
And that was again. This is what we have to resort to in order to get through. To slog through the fucking Aryan Nations and Christian identity.
Yeah.
And
but we kind of skipped over the first episode that we did, like
Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Well, okay. The thing is like it was a 50 episode arc, which seems quaintly small to me at this point in our career.
Because arc 4 was what, like 100?
I laughed out loud because at some point I said, we're nearing the end of like the endless arc, meaning a 50 episode arc. Oh my God. Such amateurs back then. Prepare for a 300 episode arc, people. So yeah, we'll see you in 5 years.
No, we're not going to make it that far.
No.
I mean, we have a lot of stuff lined up.
Oh yeah, we really
at some point we will lose our minds.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And we'll continue to do the podcast, I think.
And we will, yes. It'll just
people.
We'll just decide to cover some of the militia nuts on a different, some different time, different arc, sub arc.
We'll see. I don't know how we're going to be in American fascist waters without hitting militiamen left and right.
Oh no, we will.
Yeah, we will. There's no way to avoid.
But that. I mean, like in the beginning of arc 3, we definitely this was pre-militia era.
We talked about Swift and Gale. We talked about the Minutemen. We talked about who else? These freaks in was it Arizona and Utah?
Well, we talked about the German American Bund.
You know who else had a militia? Coughlin had a militia of his own called Christian something. Here, I have it actually here on a list of cards in front of me. And also, William Pelly had a militia. The Silver Shirts had their own militia.
Well, I mean, all fascists have some kind of a militia.
But it's not the militia movement.
It's not the militia movement.
As we know.
We talked about the birth of the movement, but we didn't really, yeah. I guess the closest thing we've done on that so far is the various territorial imperatives that we listened to during the inter-arc this year. We're getting into Covington too this time.
Right.
Covington's on the list.
I mean, this is a thing that we're going to have to talk about a little bit more again, which is this idea of
Covington's a fic treasure trove. He has like 14 novels or something.
Jesus Christ.
One of them's going to be funny, for sure. For sure.
I mean, they're all probably funny on some level.
I don't know. A lot of them can be very dull. But
he writes novels, and Frank Collins.
Frank Collins, yeah,
he's like into writing about UFOs and
A&P. He wrote the book on the U.S. military versus the aliens.
Wait, who is that?
That's the ex-A&P guy got kicked out
American Nazi Party
for pedophilia,
for being a pedo. I don't know why they focused on him, but whatever. So he got kicked out and gets arrested. Actually,
yeah,
he changes his name in jail to something. Quite similar. It's like his first and his middle name, and writes the book on American military's experience with aliens, and contributes to that whole Grudge 13 file that we talked about in the first F-Files ever.
Right.
That whole thing is tied up with Frank Collins,
and he's like the Nazis in the Blues Brothers movie are based on his faction of A&P.
Yes, yes, yeah. We got that coming. We got to talk about white Aryan resistance too, thinking about skinheads and all that. There's so much.
Wait, so we skipped over to talking about what are we going to talk about?
I'm it's a party.
We're relaxing here.
Just relaxing, chilling out. But yeah, you're right. We should review what we do know.
Yeah.
We came from somewhere. And you know what? This next arc's going to start with this, how mostly the American ruling class, middle class looked at Italian fascism. We're going to kind of start in that class sphere, just like we started with Arc 3 with Henry Ford up at the top, and with
Italian American fashion. I think that was the second.
Exactly,
that was the second episode of.
And they were the when we covered like the historical Italian American fascists, they were the ones who were the least connected with the rest of the.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Because they had their own thing. Yeah. And their enemies were other Italians, which is very typically Italian.
Yes,
and that's the one that if you go back and listen to that episode, is a little bit scattered on my part, because I really did want to focus on the fact that there was tremendous violence going on between Italian fascists and anti-fascists, like dozens of dead. Scattered across the U.S. They're shooting each other, sending each other bombs and shit like that.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty spectacular stuff. That being said, we are going back to it because there's just so much.
Not the Italian migrants this time. It's the WASPs.
Right.
The WASPs that love
because
Mussolini.
That was part of the episode as well. Yeah. If you remember, I was looking at my notes.
The press loved them.
The press loved them. Mm-hmm. They absolutely loved them until basically the end of the 30s when things started to heat up a little bit. But before that, the American press had a love affair with Italian fascism. They loved it.
Who wouldn't?
Many people.
Yeah. I don't actually. Not a fan.
Really?
Bums me out.
Okay.
Yeah. But a lot of rich people really liked it too. A lot of people liked hearing these fancy new ideas of having syndicates that are made up of owners with their workers. What a fun thing. A fun new way.
And you call them a corporation.
Fuck people over. Yes. Yeah. So we'll be talking about that right off the bat. So I feel like there's some sort of, how the Bible, the Old Testament and New Testament, they mirror each other, or like the Star Wars films, supposedly.
That's more relatable to me.
There we go. Yeah. So
it rhymes.
The what?
It rhymes.
It rhymes.
Like poetry.
Exactly. It doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
To quote George Lucas.
George Lucas.
You wouldn't know that, wouldn't
you? We are, this arc will rhyme. That's what I would prefer to say. We're not repeating. We're rhyming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And that means I want to spend more time on like the rich wasps. I want to know, because like every time we start digging, at some point we find out that like the guy that made my station wagon gave Hitler the idea for the Holocaust. There's all these fun little things you find when you scratch around in America. So I'm really looking forward to getting into them, as well as the freak of the week. I mean, we'll never totally outgrow our freaks. We need them. We love is a strong word.
Well, it's like the X-Files. There's the overarching conspiracy narrative, and then there's the monster of the week.
And then you have the guy who can squeeze through the vent.
That was the guy I was thinking.
Yeah. That was one of the first those kind of episodes in the X-Files.
I think that's Lamprey Man. No?
Yeah. He hibernates in some old newspapers or something.
Yeah.
So who's the Lamprey Man of American fascism?
Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of them.
A lot of them were in the
Most
AMP,
of them.
actually. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You can't avoid.
I think it's more like these people, like what's the name? The National Socialist Order of Nine Angles.
Yeah. Are we finally at that stage of evolution? We've only now hit Lamprey Man.
I think they are the
Okay.
they hibernate in all newspapers.
Yes, for sure they do, but so did the ANP.
I mean, the ANP had old newspapers lining their open toilet, which was the basement that they lived in.
Yeah.
ANP, maybe we'll see if there's enough sources for that. But there was like a Yugo important member of ANP in Chicago.
Yeah. Croat.
Croat, yeah. And he was involved in these like stories about conspiracy theories about the murder of George Lincoln Marconi, who killed him and so on. So
I think we will return to the ANP a little bit because I also want to focus on their election campaign. It's pretty funny. So I think maybe we'll see them again this time. All right. Well, how about this? Listen, it's gonna be hard to talk about Arc 3 without just repeating Arc 3. I think, but I do have some ideas.
Yeah, remind us maybe if you want of some of the episodes.
Well, the Aryan nations came from a thing called the Church of Jesus Christ Christian.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about Jesus Christ Christian. The
redundant name at all.
Yeah, all the religions.
How can be? I mean, are they saying that Jesus was a Christian or what? Or
well, that's.
Wait, aren't they like the real Jews anyway? Isn't that? So I mean, what are they even talking about? I mean, Aryan Nation grows out of Christian identity. It's So why would?
Well, they still believe in Jesus. I think they just think that he was Aryan.
Do they talk much about Jesus? I don't remember them talking much about Jesus.
They don't particularly. I mean, they do.
Yeah,
but it's secondary to
being
a white man.
White race. White race. Yeah, I was pulling something up. Oh yeah. Okay, so I made a little table here of the big names we covered in Arc 3. And I'm just going to throw some out. I'm going to combine them. I want to see if we can make a link just randomly between, I picked out 20 of the big names and 4 little bonus point names if you want to get really, really fancy with it.
All right.
First up, Ben Klassen, Bob Matthews. Tough one, actually. Tough one out the gate.
What am I supposed to do now?
Connect them.
Ben Klassen,
to Bob Matthews. That's actually a pretty tough one.
Connect them like in what way?
Well, in a substantial way. You get more points if it's a tighter relationship.
There has to be a Resistance Records album that has references to both Rahowa and the Order. So for the listener that hasn't listened to Arc 3 in a while, Ben Klassen is, of course, the founder and leader of the creativity movement. My least favorite people.
Yes.
The motherfuckers that invented the term Rahowa, racial holy war.
Isn't it that they were both members of the John Birch Society?
Well, yeah,
that's true. That's a link. Yeah, there we go.
That's going to link.
That's going to be the link.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I give you points for that, but I would call that like a medium points. You get middle points for that.
Yeah. Okay.
I know. That's a pretty strong connection. I think he gets full points for that.
Okay, all right, full points.
That's absolutely full
points. The council has spoken.
Because of course, like we know of their joint membership in the John Birch Society, but most people don't really. When they think of Ben Klassen or Bob Matthews, the John Birch Society isn't the first thing that comes to mind.
Well, okay, but there is a good one maybe, and it is through Resistance Records, and it's the fact that Bob Matthews was also a major contributor to National Alliance, and it's with exactly that money.
The heist money.
That we got Resistance Records. I mean, it's part of that money, but like Resistance Records was now what led National Alliance become self-sufficient. But before that, they were taking money from people like Matthews and his heists and shit. So Rahowa being like the creme de la creme of Resistance Records. Rahowa comes from Racial Holy War, comes from Ben Klassen. There it is, like you said. I think that's
Should we remind people who Bob Matthews is?
Well, yeah, of course. This is why we're doing this. Bob Matthews, The Order, Bobby. Damn it, Bobby. So many fucking things. Bob Matthews.
I mean, they're the most legendary.
That guy, yeah.
They're the most legendary American Nazis. They're the ones Ooh, the little delay?
It started late, too. I didn't know what's going on with that one. I just loaded shit up on this. I don't know what I got here.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, sorry, you were about to explain who Bob Matthews
There's a few
is.
movies based on his activities that we
reviewed.
watched. Yeah,
reviewed.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Bob Matthews was like a fucking Bircher nerd in fucking elementary school, middle school, like an 11-year-old Bircher.
Yep.
Fucking suburbs and all that. Ends up working in a mine and then gets his dad to buy him some land.
Mm-hmm.
Where were they set up out there? In,
they were
Washington.
out in God, what's it called?
He was a militia guy too. He was a child militia guy.
Medellin Falls.
Gets out to Medellin Falls.
Like
Washington.
to drink milk and eat pie.
Loves milk and pie and
milk
nothing
and
else.
pie.
Met Zilla, became Bob Zilla. And with Zilla's mom, they helped set up the assassination of Alan Berg, radio host.
I mean, he
before
did set
that,
up a terrorist organization called The Order.
exactly,
Yeah.
based on William Luther Pierce's book Turner Diaries in a lot of ways, including like crazy blackface schemes and saying
pretending to
stuff
be
like-
Mexican or something.
Yeah,
Frijoles.
yeah.
Was it Mexican?
It was.
Yes,
among
yeah,
other
they wore
things.
sombrero.
Yes.
Which is the connection with Sopo as well.
And also
Right.
Turner Diaries. Yeah.
Yeah.
It all connects. Sopo too.
But I mean, Bob Matthews and The Order are the stuff of legends for American Nazis. That's what they all kind of aspire to be.
Yeah.
Because not only did he do the white territorial imperative thing and move out to the land and live there in his compound and
Right.
get the boys together to do
Do some
revolution
terrorism.
stuff.
Get a bunch of them together, circle a baby, say a long ass pledge over the baby,
All of that.
kill
And
each
of
other in
course,
the woods with sledgehammers.
That too.
Yeah.
But also getting away with one of the largest bank robberies in U.S.
That's
history.
true. Yeah.
And people very much like that.
Till he left his gun on the scene.
Yeah. But they still got the money.
They did.
Ended up going to National Alliance.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. Bob Matthews used to make National Alliance hats and hand them out at rallies and shit. Bob Matthews is also responsible for our whole ridiculous RPG side quest problem.
Right. The shit that I found on Stormfront.
Because of the shit that I found on Stormfront. There was a guy on Stormfront who wrote a bunch of fanfic about Bob Matthews, and it was all written in second person. You do this, you do that. So we put up some stats, got out some dice, and that was what happened there. I think you guys defeated FEMA.
We did. And because we never properly covered Stormfront, we are going to talk about Don Black.
It's happening.
We have to.
Yeah, totally. I'm really afraid that I'm going to say Bob Black in that episode.
Didn't I do that recently?
We might have. It might happen a lot. We might accidentally accuse Bob Black of some things we don't mean.
Some coups.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Remember when Bob Black tried to invade Dominica?
Yes.
And does he have a direct William Pierce connection? Or like, is there a connection between World Church of the Creator and National Alliance? I mean, I'm sure there is. But...
Well, there was a rivalry between cosmotheism and creativity, but that was after Bob Class's time. That was Hale's time, I think.
Yeah, it was Hale's time. But Resistance Records has a lot of creativity bands on it. So I mean, Rahowa.
No.
I'm so sad I don't have that clip on here. I meant to put it on. Needed it so bad.
Well, they are Canadians, so.
Oh yeah, weird. Also, a lot of Canadians in Arc 3. I'm sure there'll be a lot more. They've been in Arc 4. They've been in Arc 1.
Yeah.
There are Canadians throughout this show.
Canada's the dark horse.
Yeah, they're the gray eminence behind all of this, I think, Canada. Okay, well, you want me to give you another one? Another pairing?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's roll them up. Rolling them up. All right, 6 and 15. We got Robert Depew, Daniel Burrows. Another tough one. That's a real tough one, I think.
So Robert Depew, leader of the Minutemen.
Yes.
So this is like the 50s and 60s, early 60s.
Dan Burrows.
And that's like
60s.
the proto-militia movement.
Proto-militia movement, kind of the more extreme wing of the John Birch Society, connected with feds. He's involved in the stories about the assassination of JFK and so on.
Yeah.
was a pedophile.
Oh yeah, was like fucking grooming
Yeah.
teenage girls to become like Matahari types for
Yeah.
his weird fascist militia,
Had plans to assassinate a lot of people.
including Lucille Ball.
Yes.
Who everybody loves Lucy except Robert Depew.
Mhm.
Because she was what, like a race traitor? No. Because she was Irish? Because she married like a Cuban
I
guy?
don't know, probably was a communist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They have with John Birch Society in common this thing of like anti-communism more so than
Yeah, they thought that everybody was a communist,
Yeah.
and they brought the whole kind of survivalist, like militia, anti-communist guerrilla warfare kind of shit into that era.
And one of his deputies was Robert N. Taylor,
Yes.
who became this weird, later on became this kind of weird Nazi or like pagan hippie, and had a kind of a proto-neo-folk band, which is very bad even by neo-folk standards, called Changes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It still exists and connected with all of these neo-folk people, even to this day. And then Dan Burroughs is an A&P guy who was secretly Jewish.
Yeah.
Very deranged even for A&P standards. He wanted to kill their dog, right?
He wanted to eat the dog.
Yeah.
Whose name was Gas Chamber.
And then he broke with the A&P, and I think he was also one of the founders of or somehow connected with an American Renaissance Party.
He was taken in.
Or
he was taken
National
in by
Renaissance Party.
taken in by Madol, the National Renaissance Party, and joined them, and then got in trouble because he kept drawing swastikas on Madol's mom's lampshades because the meetings were held at Madol's mom's place because that's where Madol lived. And Burroughs was interesting, and I think we'll cover this when we finally get to Madol in this arc. Finally, the National Renaissance Party and James Madol. But Madol's organization had probably one of the more sophisticated takes on Judaism and fascism, I think, for the American scene, which by and large is ridiculously anti-Semitic. Madol's organization was too, but they had like at least 2 Jewish members, not even including Dan. So it was an interesting. They were based out of where were they? Manhattan or
in New York?
Yeah. That's. I can't wait to get into them. That's going to be very interesting. But how do these guys connect?
Right, because I was thinking, I know that
it's a tough one.
Depew has a connection with Liberty Lobby, but not with.
Sure. Well, that's not bad. I mean, that's just one degree of separation from the A&P, because you got through Liberty Lobby, we get people like William Pierce, who became one of Dan's superiors in the A&P. And so
and Liberty Lobby is one of the big groups that we didn't talk about in our screen that we're definitely going to talk about.
Yeah. Robert Depew didn't he he was really important to Liberty Lobby, right? Wasn't he kind of
I don't remember this.
There is a connection. I don't remember exactly.
Liberty Lobby was more like kind of the opposite like side of the John Birch Society in some sense, because Liberty Lobby was actually a bit anti-American in the sense that they were influenced by Yockey.
Yeah.
So they were like
they were Yockians.
Yeah.
Yes. Fucking Yockey. Yeah.
And Depew was like more kind of old-fashioned anti-communist.
Yeah, he was.
So I don't know. I mean, they were both very publicly like shamed and embarrassed when.
Yeah.
But that's like.
This is the hardest one, I think. I think this is our weakest link here. But also, I think part of that's the problem with this is partially because Dan Burroughs. Oh no, Dan Burroughs got around. Dan Burroughs was a Klan member. He worked with Roy Frankhauser. He was an A&P guy. He was a National Renaissance Party guy. He covers a lot of ground.
Did Frankhauser have a connection to?
Well, Depew doesn't have a Klan connection, right?
No, he's probably.
There were Minutemen had members who were Klan leaders and members.
Well, okay then, because at some point Dan Burroughs was somehow in charge of the Clavern in New York area. He was in.
Right.
So the Klan. But that's very much like saying John Birch Society. It's either going to be John Birch or the fucking Klan. You know?
There is like they both have some like indirect connection with like quasi-occult, quasi-Satanism or Satanism. Like Dan Burroughs was in the National Renaissance Party, and their leader Madol was friends with Andon LaVey, and Depew's at some point, like Deputy Robert N. Taylor was closely connected with the Protestant Church of Final Judgment for a period. So there is like those kind of connections.
All right, this is what we got on Tenapod. This is some Tenapod connectivity here.
Some good occult connections.
That sounds like 3 or 4 eps we have yet to do.
Yeah.
Probably in this coming arc right now.
For sure.
Arc 5. All right, we got an 8 and we got a 15. Ah, we already did a 15. That was Dan. So I got to do a D4. This one's going to be fucking impossible. 3. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, what I got here is Charles Coughlin and Roy Frankhauser, incidentally. I think...
Who's Roy Frankhauser?
That is he was a big Klan guy. Roy actually might have also been an A&P member. Let me check.
Okay.
But that's also a weird one temporarily because like
was he
was
like
out
a
of the game.
Grand Dragon or something?
He would have been, yeah. But of what? He was a security consultant to Lyndon LaRouche. He was a Grand Dragon of the KKK, but I don't know that meant the entire like nationwide Klan. I think he was just like a regional leader. A&P member.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I don't know much about Frankhauser. I think he was mentioned in some of these theories about the murder of Rockwell, I think.
Yeah.
I think he was source for some of the theories who killed George Lincoln Rockwell. I don't remember much about him. And then Coughlin, I don't know. He's not...
Coughlin's kind of
well,
the generation before that.
Coughlin shut up by World War II because they kind of made him. And
should we
review
Coughlin?
Yeah, so I think I can actually get there is the thing. I think I can get us there. So Coughlin was the kind of first ultra-right radio host ever, really, like in that genre. And he was, of course, Catholic, but he also made kind of early outreach to like the Klan and stuff like that, even though he made his original career off of being a victim of the Klan in an event that I'm still not sure actually happened. But he was preaching out of Dearborn, Michigan.
They didn't like Catholic people, no?
No, they didn't. But this is Coughlin's one of those first steps that helped make Catholics white in America by becoming the biggest fucking fascist in the room. And he did that out of Henry Ford's stomping ground out there in Michigan. And was so popular that a third of the entire country was listening to him on like a weekly basis. Had a couple runs for office that failed, but he was backing America First kind of in the background. He was also bringing together... there were olive branches made out to the Klan in the 30s from him. But what I wanted to say is that he had his own militia movement, and
what?
It just all falls apart there. Like, okay, here's what I would like to know for Arc 5. How about this? I'm going to answer this with a question. Is there a direct line between the Christian militia movements of the 30s and the Christian identity militia movements that would come to rise in the 50s, 60s, etc.? And I wonder, because there's a dip in my knowledge here that I'm finding right now, I'm having trouble. Because I feel like if I had this knowledge, I could make this connection. But I want to know what happened to these 1930s Christian militias and where those members went.
Well, there is a connection.
They went to war.
Because Richard Butler was a member of the Silver Shirts in the 30s.
There we go. Perfect. So there was a lot of crossover between Coughlin's Christian Legion and the Silver Shirts. A lot of it. In fact, they were doing events together and shit like that. These people would show up together at Bund rallies and stuff like that. Right. They would back the Bund. They would also both back America First and
Silver Shirts had
first rallies.
They had a summer camp with the Bund.
There we go. Yeah. I'm going to guess a guy named Roy Frankhauser has a Bundist in his family. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to be a bigot. Maybe he did. I don't know. Yeah. But what I don't know is, like, I'd like to know, did World War II eliminate these militias? Did they disappear, or did a bunch of them stick around in America? I'd like to know.
Or did they go to war when they demobilized, became part of,
and then join new ones?
Militia movement.
But I bet you there's a pretty big crossover there between these early Christian militias and the later ones.
Because there is for sure a connection between like the Silver Shirts and later Nazis. So there should be one for like the Coughlin era.
Yeah,
Christian militias.
Frankhauser was born in Reading, Pennsylvania, was a paratrooper, became a Nazi in the 10th grade. Sounds like a lot of guys from Arc 3.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Arc 5, Roy. Guess who's getting his own episode? It's you. Yeah. So Yeah. All right. So that was a tough one. No points on that one. No points on that one. I think we lack the necessary information.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. 11 and 9. William Pelly. Speaking of the silver shirts, and we already did Bob Matthews, so we have to go to the board again. The advanced version. William Pelly. This is kind of boring. How about this? William Pelly, Lillian Gish.
I don't remember who that is.
Boris, do you remember Lillian Gish? Lillian Gish. You may remember her being the subject of affection of a certain Southern gentleman as he took her picture out into the field of the Brothers' Wars.
Oh, of course.
No? Is it not helping?
Wait. Are we talking about the silent film actress?
The famous actress Lillian Gish.
Right.
Yeah.
But what why did we talk about her? Was she?
We talked about her at least twice, actually. We talked about her in two.
Because
different
Birth of a
episodes.
Nation.
Birth of a Nation. She was one of the stars, probably the star.
Yeah. Of course. Lead. No, it didn't. When you said it, I was like, wait a second.
Well, this is on the expert mode version. Like this is this is expert mode version. Lillian Gish also enormous America First supporter, big like pro-Nazi voice out there, but also William Pelly. Does any remember how he got his start? Like, who was he before he was the Silver Shirts leader, the talking to the fourth dimensional mentor spirits? Does anybody remember?
Had some entertainment.
Fuck yeah, he did. He had like 3 hit films in the silent film era.
That's right.
I don't think any of them starred Lillian Gish. I'm not sure about that, but they were definitely tight. Like, he was a big deal there. And then he wrote like his Hollywood column forever as he was jumping around business to business until he finally had an epiphany with his dog Blowjob. Do you remember his dog Blowjob?
That was not the dog's real name.
The dog's real name we forgot, but the translation from whatever that was into American English, one of the options was Blowjob. So we took that option, obviously. And so he and his dog Blowjob somehow went into the 5th dimension. A purple haze surrounded them, and they met sheiks and shebas of the other dimensions, and he discovered that there's this whole dimensional thing going on, and he could talk to mentor spirits from any time. And that's when Jesus told him all about how racist he was, and when Ben Franklin told him to watch out for the Jews, which became a quote that people still use to this day. But it came from William Pelly, blowing his mind out with his dog Blowjob out there in the mountains in California, trying to write a movie he didn't want to write.
Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot that Lillian Gish was a character in that arc, because we talked about her in relation to Birth of a Nation, and then also several other racist films she was in. She was in most of D.W. Griffith's films, right? She was in Tolerance, and then Broken Blossoms, which is one of my favorite kind of Yellow Peril sound films, I think.
Wow. William Pelly also did his own Yellow Peril films where he essentially blamed Chinese crime for the San Francisco earthquake. Good people.
Yes.
Man, I definitely also forgot about Pelly's silent film connection, or Pelly's Hollywood connection.
Okay, I got an easy one for you. Bill Cameron and Bob Matthews. Easy.
What, we already had Bob Matthews.
We did, but let's do it for the people. Who's Bill Cameron?
He's a Henry Ford guy who became one of the first American British Israelites. But he was like a Henry Ford sidekick who became one of the first ideologues of British Israelism in the America.
And consequently is probably the first Christian identitarian, Christian identity guy, right? Mm-hmm. He took the British Israelism, doubled up on the racism and anti-Semitism, fed it through the Dearborn Independent and the International Jew, both run by Henry Ford. Mm-hmm. Spoke for Henry Ford because Henry Ford was like a robot person.
Yeah.
Couldn't make human connections that weren't mediated by death machines. And that's Bill Cameron.
And of course, Bob Matthews' group The Order had a bunch of Christian identity people in it.
That's right. Absolutely right. You were right that Bob Matthews we already did. I should have gone to the expert mode, but the expert mode would have given us William Potter Gale, which is even better for this.
I mean, that's...
Because that's a direct line. William Potter Gale was the understudy of... Wesley Swift.
Yeah.
Wesley Swift.
Because
Yeah.
Swift and Gale, Christian Identity Rangers. That's why.
I mean, they're both ideologues of Christian
California
identity.
Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, founding ideologues, and in
Right.
fact, they make up the two splits. There was, I think, the William Potter Gale end of that ended up getting into Richard Butler and Aryan
Right, because they
Nations.
became Aryan Nations,
Yes.
just Church of Jesus Christ Christian.
Yes, and then the Wesley Swift arm. Shit, what happened to that? That ended up being its own thing too. But nonetheless, he brought in all the aliens
Was
and
the
stuff.
Wesley Swift the guy who had like direct influence on A&P and
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
He's the A&P line. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They connect Aryan Nations to A&P actually because they were tight collaborators, but like all fascist groups, when there's too many Führers in the pond, one of them has to get et. I guess is the old saying. So my granddad used to say.
There's too many Führers in the pond.
Yeah. One of them's gotta get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He said
shit,
did he say that at the Boone meetings?
He said that after the Boone meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
when there's too many Führers in
Fritzy, come here.
Fritzy,
I have
Fritzy?
some advice for you.
But Fritz Kuhn's voice, actual speaking voice, was that kind of like stereotype.
Mhm.
Yeah, you
It's
you studied for
like,
that, and it
he
paid
did,
off.
I forgot.
That was it, right there. You've got it. That's him. Yeah. Oh, my little angel.
Oh
my
my
little
God, yeah.
Bavarian angel.
Oh, my little Bavarian angel.
Yeah.
No.
This is a reference to love letters that Fritz Kuhn would write to one of his many mistresses.
Yeah, one of his many mistresses. I
Uh-huh.
mean, his whole activities, extracurricular activities, are kind of what brought the whole German American Bund down.
Right.
Because it is funny when we
Awesome.
talk about like American Nazism, that Madison Square Garden rally is always like,
Right.
they're
That's
like,
the big one.
in the 1930s, they got, I don't know, whatever,
Yeah.
30,000 Americans Zig Heiling
Yeah.
to pictures.
Did you
of
know we
Hitler.
had one Nazi rally in American history?
But like the funny thing was about that rally, if I remember correctly, is that he was basically at that point like already in deep trouble with actual Nazis in Germany for like embezzling all this money. He was drunk as fuck all the time,
and
fucking
being
sucking.
deeply embarrassing to Nazis. Like
Right.
same with William Pelly. Like
Right.
both of these guys who were friends, by the way, Fritz and Bill, both of them wanted to work with Germany like tightly, and Germany didn't want them.
Well, Germany did want they sponsored the Bund in the beginning, but he became such an embarrassment because he was getting in trouble for fucking being wasted all the time, womanizing, also talking shit on America, which they were not having before the war started. Obviously, they were trying to stay in favor. And then the Madison Square Garden thing was him basically blowing out all their fucking money on one big thing.
It's a bonfire. It's a potluck. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not what people think it is.
I saw here on the card that I made at some point during this third arc that it says that his replacement Kunze was a German military intelligence officer.
Yes.
That's nuts. I forgot about that completely.
Yeah.
So like Fritz was kind of pushed out, replaced with a dude that was straight up German military intelligence.
Yeah, and he's the one
nuts.
he's the one that ended up fleeing to Mexico and escaping the country.
That is fucking crazy. That is really
Of course,
crazy.
it was the last Bund guy, George. The Schlock. George Frobosse.
Oh, damn. I don't remember. Oh, is that
He's the one that fucking decapitated himself.
That's the
and
best
that's how
death
the Bund,
on the whole show.
It's the best death on the whole show.
Yeah, and the story was, if I remember right, his body was permanently frozen with rigor mortis into a Sieg Heil, into a Roman salute.
That's
the
what we
legend.
said.
That's the legend that we started. Did we start that legend?
We might have.
I believe it. I think it's real now. I've internalized it as truth.
Because that was like, the Bund had already gotten into so much trouble.
Yes.
Fritz Kuhn had fucked up
Yes.
with everyone.
Yes.
The other guy, Kunze, was a straight up Abwehr guy.
Wilhelm Kunze. Yeah.
And had to flee the country. And then fucking poor old Frobosse or whatever just lay his head down on some train tracks in Milwaukee and let the train.
Yeah. And then their spiritual
decapitate him.
successors, I would say the American Nazi Party, also their leader, also had a run in with a train, but post mortem. Do you remember this one? This is a hot pop quiz for you guys. Who remembers the struggle that the dead fucking Commander Rockwell had with an oncoming train.
Post-mortem.
Yeah.
That was the funeral.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were trying to get in, I think, to like something like Arlington Cemetery, something like
Yeah,
that.
they were not allowed.
They were not allowed in, so they stopped in front of the cemetery on the fucking train tracks.
Right.
And an oncoming train, very nearly, like seconds away, bashed and killed George Lincoln Rockwell twice.
That's such a missed opportunity.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's almost as bad as like, Group 69 not dropping Henry Kissinger in a well.
Yeah.
It's those moments where we almost.
Yeah, it's one of those moments.
Almost had it. Almost had the
See,
sublime
but
in our pocket.
for infrastructure nerds, this is when America had trains.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Sit on train tracks.
A train was like a bunch of cars that only one guy drove. Yeah. So cool. Down memory lane here.
Yeah.
Down memory lane.
I think this is when the Croatian ANP guy was like giving speeches during this funeral, like by standing on a car or something like that, if I remember. I don't remember his last name. I will have to go through that again.
Speaking of Bob Matthews, actually, I did find something when I was trolling through Arc 3 shit that was cut and left behind.
Oh?
You guys once described it.
I'm sure it wasn't cut for good reason.
It was cut for a very, very good reason, but I'm going to bring it back now.
Okay.
This was something you guys, I sent to you this at like 5 a.m. after I was working on the Bob Matthews edits.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, I think, this sounds like something they would play to prisoners at Guantanamo Bay. And I titled it, What the Fuck Is This? And this is something that I made. I'd like to play a little clip here.
Okay.
Oh, shit. Wait. Wait, I can do this. Oh, I see. Yeah. To hold it.
Oh, that's us.
Yeah, it is.
Stand up like this.
Oh, yeah.
Aroused. Okay, so
That is excellent.
so we decided not to put that in the original free app, but this is I'm bringing.
Wait,
it
was
now
there
to
like an
people.
auto tune?
There was a lot going on there actually. Most of it was psychological though.
Oh my.
Yeah, there's been many times when we just fucking broke. Yeah.
The categories.
Categories. And many times. You know what? Part of what I feel like happened here with this like kind of long break we had before this new arc was okay. So this laptop in front of me actually, like my brother-in-law gave me this sick computer. And I stopped using the laptop for everything. Like I'm running all of our stuff, all the edits are on this computer, all the games that I play are on the computer, and this thing has just been off. And then I finally opened it up again and turned it back on, and it has not been the same. It's been very sluggish. It's been very slow. Not everything I click actually works anymore. And I kind of feel like that's what happened when we cut our schedule in half. Like, and went on vacation.
I was going to suggest that it was possessed.
Well, that's a good guess, but I was trying to suggest that I am the laptop. So if you're saying the laptop is possessed, then that means that I am possessed. But I have the Demon of Fatima card.
Or that you're communicating with Sixth Dimension Ben Franklin.
I'm sorry. I might be. 16-1. All right. We have William Luther Pierce III.
Ooh,
and
finally.
Francis Parker Yockey.
Oh, man, these are heavy hitters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What do we got? Can we draw the line?
Yockey was not around for that.
Oh, right.
He was dead.
He was dead by then.
Dead.
Yeah, shit. He met William Pelly. He met Fritz Kuhn. He met all those guys. He met all the Underwar guys. You're right. Yeah. So this is going to be tough.
I mean, there's oh,
it's easy, actually. It's Liberty Lobby. Because, like, Liberty Lobby was a Yockeyan institution. Like,
but there's no direct ANP connection.
There's a direct William Luther Pierce III connection.
Oh, okay.
Because
so William Luther Pierce and
and York.
Yeah, because National Alliance was at first like a kind of a liberty lobby, like youth group.
Exactly right. It was National Youth Alliance.
National Youth Alliance.
That's right.
And that was a Yorkian group, so
yeah,
there's the connection.
That's the connection.
There's another way to connect them through the kind of the more posh New York Nazi milieu.
Madol? Are we talking about Madol again?
Yes, and the guy that we probably will cover, what's his name? H. Keith Thompson?
Oh, H. Keith Thompson, right?
Yeah,
Keith Thompson. I mean,
yeah. So those people who, they started the National Renaissance Party.
Yeah.
But they were also, they knew Yorkie and were hanging out with him in New York.
Okay, right.
And were also later friends with Rockwell.
So that's the other direction back to because William Luther Pierce then as like kind of was possibly pegged to lead after Rockwell. I mean, there's a lot of people that were. That's how it all fell apart. But William Luther Pierce, again, both A&P and Liberty Lobby.
This Keith Thompson guy is very interesting. I think I would like to learn more about him.
Yeah, he's on the list.
So far, we mentioned him when we read the Kevin Coogan book about Yorkie, Dreamer of the Day. He's like he's allegedly was maybe in the SS during the war. And
was it intelligence? Nazi intelligence asset or something?
Yeah, it was alleged that he was like a part of some sabotage of an American ship somewhere. And I think was a member of the Bund.
Okay.
And later on was in the National Renaissance Party and a friend of Yorkie. And he died like around 2000 I'm not sure.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. And was all over the place and was kind of a rich guy. And you know who's the connection with William Pierce and Yorkie and that whole crowd is Matt Cale.
Right.
Because he was also friends with those people in New York. And they were like more kind of intellectual Nazis in New York. Some which had some money. And
Cale, my God, yeah, that was the lamest A&P member, the one that couldn't party.
Yeah, because he was allegedly a lover of Eustace Mullins.
Right.
And Eustace Mullins was also, I think, in the Renaissance Party.
Who was Eustace Mullins?
Eustace Mullins was he was like a follower of Ezra Pound, close to him. He wrote a book about the Federal Reserve, something like that, very much under Pound's influence. And was later on like known as a kind of a conspiracy theorist, but it was like early on in his career an open Nazi, and then became like an American internet guy. He died in the 2000s. Like kind of Alex Jones type of conspiracy theory, Federal Reserve, and so on, this and that. But he was like a Nazi, who was a direct follower of Ezra Pound and had this connection with the National Renaissance Party. And he also had a direct connection with another funny guy, and that would be Fletcher Prouty.
Fletcher Prouty, shit.
Who also had a Liberty Lobby connection. And Fletcher Prouty is Donald Sutherland in JFK.
Yes. Yeah, Fletcher Prouty was also featured briefly in, I think, the first F-Files episode. He was...
Yeah, you did mention him,
Yeah. No, you know where we mentioned him? We mentioned him in the last arc, actually. He came up during the Green Berets stuff, during the Operation Bloodstone and all that.
Right. Yeah, Fletcher Prouty was like a...
He was an informant.
Fletcher Prouty was a military intelligence guy, and I think relatively high up in... the hierarchy there.
Yeah.
And then he became one of the first kind of government-connected people or ex-government-connected people who started talking about the murder of JFK and what he knew about it and so on. Yeah. But he used, like, he was not a Nazi, but he used, like, Liberty Lobby platforms to write about his stuff. And also, like, porn magazines and so on.
Yeah, he's tricky. I would really like to study him because, man, guy like that, hard taking his word for anything. You know what I mean? It's hard. I'd like to be able to like distinguish.
Yeah, but he impressed like Oliver Stone so much that basically based like a kind of a crucial character in that film on him.
It's the longest single discussion in the movie, if I recall. They're sitting on the park bench, right?
He explains what happened. Basically.
It's the whole, he unravels the entire plot there,
And I think Oliver Stone was very impressed by how Donald Sutherland did that.
Yeah.
And he says that like Donald Sutherland Oliver Stone thinks that Donald Sutherland is a genius because of the way he like just perfectly knew his lines, and it was a very long scene.
It is very long.
And like, needed only one take or something like that to do it, and it was like perfect.
It's like a 3-page monologue.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And he does deliver it very, very well.
Yes, he does. He does. Man, JFK. How many times did you watch that movie for Arc 3, would you say?
I watched it many, many times, but just because I like watching.
Just cause. Yeah. You mentioned it's like you're going to sleep movie sometimes or something.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
That's the kind of things that go on in Cinepod. That's who we are. We're that kind of person. Kind of person that watches JFK in the background to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Forward and to the back. It's like, I get it. It's just kind of that rocking feeling of JFK's head going back and forth. Yeah, puts you out.
There's like a Seinfeld parody of that scene.
Yeah,
which uses the same actor, who's both he's the Seinfeld's nemesis neighbor, the one who says "Hi Jerry," something like that, and then you know who I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
What is his name? He was also in Jurassic Park and
Newman.
Newman, yeah. So he's
Jerry.
He's in both scenes in JFK and in the Seinfeld.
He is in
parody
JFK.
Yeah, he's one of the guys sitting there explaining how the magic bullet theory doesn't work.
Great, and that was again Yaki and William Luther Pierce III.
Somehow took us the Seinfeld's JFK episode where Newman.
I'm looking forward to this arc. That's the kind of shit that's going to happen. We're going to figure out who Newman's connected to. All right. I'm looking at a 5 and an 8. That gives us Charles Lucky Lindbergh.
Ooh.
And James True. This one is actually very easy. Too easy, in fact. But you'd have to remember who James True is. That's the problem here. Yeah. I can just say
whose
the
episode
connection.
was that? Yours?
That's all me. This is like deep me.
Is this like F-Files? Or?
No. They're actually in the same episode. James True is the man that coined, or rather copyrighted, the term America First. He's the original one, America First Incorporated. He built the policeman's truncheon and sold it to white nationalist militias to go beat people up and kill them.
He was like a lawyer businessman type?
He kept this, he was a reporter who kept this thing called the Industrial Control Reports, which seems very mundane, but it was all like hardcore Nazi propaganda shit, fascist shit, super racist. And James True was the original, the firster. And then Charles Lindbergh, of course, Lucky Lindy, not only flew to Paris or whatever, but he came back a Nazi and started America First the second time. Okay, sorry, he became the spokesperson for it in the later stages of America First the second time. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
So that is probably the most direct connection of any of these. That's literally from the same episode.
Name to name.
Name to name. Yeah.
I don't think they knew each other, but they would have loved each other because... well, maybe not, because if we remember Lindy, as much as he really loved Nazis, he was turned off by Kristallnacht and didn't like the beating.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys. He was one of those guys that's like, look, I'm as anti-Semitic as the next man, but, can you make it a little cleaner for the investments?
They did make it clear.
Oof. Well, America First for sure did.
No, I mean the Nazis, There's also the complaint of a lot of like German citizens. It's like, could you like not make such a mess in the streets? Oh, right.
Yeah.
And then the Nazis started doing it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
More industrial way.
They did.
And I think that was fine.
And that was easier for everyone.
Yeah. Industrialists and anti-Semites, both big figures in America First. As I think they are again today.
Indeed.
Hey. If the first time's a tragedy and the second time's a farce, what's the third time?
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, not going to fool me again. Now watch this drive.
No.
Just dodged the question with a Bush quote. I accept it.
I can do this.
All right.
Okay, give us
a couple more. I'm gonna start having to pick them now because we're repeating a lot. Who haven't we hit? We haven't done Ezra Pound yet.
No.
So let's say Ezra Pound and Richard Butler, Girthy Dick Butt Butler, and Ezra. That's a tough one too. I mean, Dick Butt wasn't he wasn't part of those like fancy literary classes. He was also he wouldn't have been involved in like getting Ezra Pound out of the mental institution or anything like that. Dick Butt wasn't like really into Italian fascism as far as I recall. He had his own fucking thing going on.
I'm thinking if there was any connection between Pound and the Silver Shirts. Because Butler was a member in the 30s.
So tough, man. Because you got to go through. Okay, well, there would be a connection between Pound and the Klan, of course, because of that dude that he fucking worked with. Casper. John Casper probably has those connections. John Casper probably gets us to Butler. We just don't have it in front of us because, like, geographically, they're right up on each other at times, anyway. At various times, they're also.
Yeah, but did Richard Butler have connections with the Klan at that time? I don't think so.
That's a tough one. Open question. I wouldn't mind even looking into John Casper if we have time in this arc because we did get introduced to him, but he is a shit.
Well, okay, there is a connection because
Dick Butt was
didn't Dick Butt was a aero engineer?
Yeah, aerospace engineer.
Who worked for basically the CIA.
Good.
We don't know.
We don't know, but he was an aerospace engineer.
But didn't he work for Lockheed Martin or something like that?
He did, yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Which
Absolutely.
is the CIA now. And
State Department contractor. Okay. Yeah, we can say.
Sure. Pound had a disciple who was Angleton, one of the founders of CIA.
Okay, you're trying to go the CIA route. I see where you're going. I'd like to get there with you, but I think we need more work.
Okay.
But there's a totally different John Casper out there
because
an astronaut.
Ezra Pound was into Italian fascism, into Italy and stuff. In World War II, Dick Butt was in India, if you recall. That's where he learned of Aryanism from his servant boy. That was like, "You're black as the ace of spades. How can you be an Aryan?"
Okay.
Oh my God, I forgot about that quote.
Yeah.
God damn, what a classy dude. Really had a way with words that one.
So
I did the voice wrong.
So both of them were experts on the Orient.
Oh man.
And the Aryan race, the higher people of Asia.
Go on.
You know that Ezra Pound had his ideas about the Chinese. And
I actually don't remember his ideas about the Chinese.
They were like equivalent of Aryans.
Please tell us.
That's my fault. I mean, that's on me. They're equivalent of Aryans. Okay, well, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because that was also a common theme in other readings of creation that we had, like the Christian identity one that tended to frame the Asians as even more native to the earth and somehow more advanced. This is all like, 50s, 60s stuff, but yeah.
Okay, so there's not really a connection here.
Well, okay, let's look at this. So Ezra Pound was connected with Casper, who was a Nazi who became a Klansman. He was also directly connected with Mankale, who is an ANP guy.
What about National States Rights Party? That's a connect for Casper.
Yes, he was basically one of the founders. And they are Pound's disciples were involved in starting that party.
Which is another thing we're going to talk about.
And the American Nazi Party and a Renaissance Party as well.
But but does for instance the National States Rights Party that Casper helped found, does that get us to Butler? Do you remember him being up in that business?
I don't remember.
I don't remember that either.
I think so.
Damn.
It's possible, but
it is possible. It's absolutely possible.
We're doing our best here. This is a good one.
Pound was also a friend with Oswald Mosley. That probably is not helpful as well.
Well, that gets us to Yaki.
Yes.
Who
Mosley didn't like Yaki, but they did meet.
So, I mean, Butler, if I remember his trajectory.
Yeah, please remind us.
Remind us of who are his Christian identity influences, or those guys.
Swift.
That's Swift. Yeah.
Swift is also ANP connected.
And William Potter Gale.
Swift is like his school of people went to ANP. So sure. Yeah, Swift is ANP connected.
I think there is a more direct connection between him and Rockwell. I think we mentioned some kind of a I mean, okay, this is the connection. I think.
All right,
because he gets into Christian identity pretty early on.
Wait, who the fuck are we talking about again? I forgot who we rolled.
Well, I mean,
Dick Butt.
16.
If
Butt and
if Butler is connected to a guy who's connected with A&P, there is a connection because Matt Cale, a leader of A&P, was Pound's disciple.
Yes,
who he knew.
I think you're right. I think the A&P is the connection,
or the Silver Shirts.
Or Silver Shirts, because we were confused about how deep that connection was. We know that there were Silver Shirts in Dick Butt's organization,
yes,
but not Pounds.
And Dick Butt
himself was affiliated with the Silver Shirts.
Yes, he was a member.
Okay,
yeah, he was a member.
But there is an A&P connection with both Richard Butler, we think, and Pound, so that might be the connection.
Okay. It can also go through Yaki in a weird way, probably if we. No, I'm sorry, not with Yaki. With
Well, there is a kind of a Yaki doesn't have a direct connection with Pound, but he has connection with people who are connected.
That's what I was saying too. He's the other big connective tissue that brings people together. So we've got as far as big connective umbrellas go, we've got a bunch. We've got the John Birch Society, brings a lot of people together. Christian Identity brings a shit ton of people together.
Yeah,
John Birch Society.
John Birch. That was the first one I said.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah. You've been knocking them back. All right. I should too. Where's mine? All right. The fucking feds would be another one. And I think the fourth big one we just now talked about. Yaki. Motherfucking Yaki. Because Yaki met everybody at some point. He was up in everybody's business.
Yeah, he had a connection with Coughlin and the Boone and the Silver Shirts.
Yeah.
And American National Renaissance Party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because of all of those things, I think Pound's most closest of the one of the net to, how do you say this? The of those four umbrellas, the one that Pound is closest to, I think of all of them, is probably the KKK, which is something that would have surprised me before the Arc 3.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know there was any connection, much less he was fucking co-authoring, segregationist terrorist texts that somehow manifestos that just somehow start talking about he wasn't biblical standard, was he? He was something like that. He had the holy economics of some kind. A lot of these guys do.
Social credit was his thing.
But he also had his own weights and measures thing with like silver and all that fucking shit.
I mean, there might be some connection through segregationists of that time.
Yeah, that brings a lot of them together too.
Between Pound's clan connection and girthy Dick Butt's political activities pre-Aryan Nations and Church of Jesus Christ Christian. Sorry, I just love saying Jesus Christ Christian.
Okay, you know what? I think this is our last one here.
All right, last one.
I think we got all fucking 20 others. Those would be, this is another fucking hard one. Are you ready? Or maybe not, because it is Robert Welch. So that is one of our umbrella people.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Welch, founder of the John Birch Society, and Matt Cale, New Order, ex-ANP. That's going to be fairly easy, because surely between the ANP and the John Birch Society. I mean,
yeah, I'm thinking, I don't remember if Matt Cale was actually a member of the John Birch Society. I think he wasn't. I think he was a Nazi as a very young guy, as a teenager. So that was very early on, he was, I think, a Nazi.
Well, you know what the connection to Welch is to everyone was the candy business.
You're telling me Matt Cale never had a piece of candy?
You mean he never ate a Junior Mint? Or
never
whatever?
Tried Smuckers? Wait, that's a different brand.
That is a different brand.
Yeah, Welch is...
They had...
Smuckers is the competitor, the anti-fascist brand.
I mean, it's very easy because, a bunch of Nazis were members of the John Birch Society, and later on were in the ANP, and Cale was the leader of the ANP.
What about George Lincoln Rockwell? I don't remember him in his Birch time. Did he have it?
I don't think so.
He came straight from vaudeville to the big leagues, to Hollywood.
He had a short while where he had some kind of a racist paper, which was an openly Nazi, I think. and then just Nazi.
Yeah. You got to have a period. Like Bob Matthews was Birch Society.
Yeah.
You know, like you got to have that period where you're just kind of a nerd, like a right-wing fucking nerd.
Well, I think it was particularly for people who were a little bit younger than
That's so
George
fucked up.
Lincoln Rockwell.
Yeah.
Or because Rockwell was already kind of more formed politically by the time that the Birch Society was doing its stuff. And the Birch Society at that time was not Nazi.
Right. Yeah.
Was Dan Burroughs a member of the John Birch Society?
Oh, that's a Fritz question.
Danny boy, were you a John Birch Society member? I think not.
Do you know any A&P member who was?
I don't even think Pierce was a John Birch Society guy.
Yeah, he was Liberty Lobby.
Yeah. God damn. No, it's a whole nother wing somehow, isn't it? I feel like we're discovering
right, but this is people like Bob Matthews.
Yeah, but that gets us there. That's
that was the
at that
stepping
point.
stone.
But that's not a Kale connection.
Yeah. Kale's like esoteric Hitlerism. Savitri Devi maybe would be a way to go with that. I mean, but none of that really links up with the John Birchers. They're too square.
Yeah, they're too square.
But if there is anyone in the A&P who was in John Birch Society, that's the connection with Welch, with Kale and Welch.
But I think it says a lot that we don't know it because like John Birch Society usually is so well connected to so many people. It's really funny now to realize that they are apparently. I mean, we'll figure it out maybe in this arc, but maybe one of the open questions I'd like to answer then is like, is that whole line essentially separated from the John Birch Society line? Because that's an interesting thing to know.
It might be
genealogically.
Although I wouldn't be surprised if some of them
were like Bob
Birches.
Matthews was,
like Bob Matthews was, and like many other people.
He brings it together for sure.
But again, they all probably ate sugar daddies.
They all ate sugar daddies.
And junior mints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they ate some really fucked up named ones too. They used to have these really disgusting names. Some of these Welch's.
Welch's fudge.
That wasn't it, but
Welch's frappe.
No, these are like fancy ones, huh? These like classic.
They sold them to Tootsie Roll Industries. For the listener who doesn't remember,
please, yeah. Why are we talking about candy, Boris?
Robert Welch, Robert W. Welch Jr., founder of the John Birch Society, inherited an extremely successful candy business from his brother.
Yeah.
Which made him very, very rich.
Do we know what Kale did for a living?
I don't remember that at all. I think he just started cults, right? Did he have a job?
It wasn't a very successful cult. You can make a living out of a non-successful cult.
Yeah, that's true.
With 5 members.
I don't even remember what fucking happened to him. Like, what happened to him?
He lived in Milwaukee and died.
Well, what a story.
But not by beheading himself.
No, he died of old age.
We did a whole episode on him, and he's the one that I'm blanking out the most on.
Yeah, me too.
I just picture his ASMR fucking voice.
They made AMP into a very small group that didn't want to have many members called New Order.
New Order, yeah.
Right, which was based in Milwaukee, and they wore white shirts with black ties so they don't look like Nazis, but they still have a uniform.
That's still very Nazi.
And they went to the mall where Rockwell was killed and had quasi-religious ceremonies there annually.
Yeah.
And there's like, in the photos of them, there's like maybe 8 people attending, some of them very old.
Did he like retire or something? Did all 8 people go to jail and he just went home?
I think he was like corresponding with Savitri Devi.
Yeah.
And I think Miguel Serrano.
Well, he was the world's biggest fanboy at the time, I guess.
Yeah. I think he organized the kind of funeral ceremony for Savitri Devi, I think. And had her ashes.
Yeah, I know Pierce was involved with that as well. I think Pierce ended up being the caretaker of the ashes in the end, though.
None of this connects us to Robert Welch at all.
No, we're trying real hard. I think the strongest connection is definitely the Welch's frappe candy.
If we think of an AMP member who was in John Birch Society, which probably there was at least one.
Certainly
it's a free episode, man. A lot more people are going to hear this, and maybe they can send us a message and connect these dots. In fact,
if you know any connection between
any of the connections we've been struggling with today, for sure, like this is going to help us get through the next arc, because one of the things we do work a lot with is listener information, and that's always super helpful. More when it's accurate.
I think we need to do one more more successful than this one.
Yeah, this is kind of a bummer to end on.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right. So we did them all, but let me just look at the. You want to put a weird one together? Anybody? Yeah.
Can you do a random one?
Well, yeah, I'll do a random one. All right, it'll be the ones we already covered.
There aren't any super ones.
Oh, let me see. No, we got them. We got them all. Yeah, there were only 4 super ones. It was Lillian Gish, William Potter Gale, Roy Frankhauser, and James True. Okay. 14 and 10. Weirdly enough, Robert Welch got picked again. And it's connected into Rockwell, so we got the exact same problems.
Yeah.
Okay. 20 and 13. Not so fun. 9 and 5. Okay, this would be a tough one. I'm going to give you 2 options. We got Bob Matthews and Charles Lindbergh.
We did both of them.
We're going to have this. We did all of them, I think.
We did all of them?
Yeah. 10 and 4 would be George Lincoln Rockwell and Wesley Swift. We could do...
they had direct connection, I think.
They did. Well, yeah. Yes. 7 would be Ezra and Robert Welch. Robert Welch may have been one of those guys advocating for Ezra Pound's release. There was a bunch of like these upper class fucking right wingers that were doing that shit. I want to say I saw his name on that list, but unclear. But I think we're just out, man. Like 5 and 1 for Yockey and Lindbergh.
We didn't have Metzger.
You're right, because we didn't do an episode on Metzger.
We did on his TV show.
We did on his TV show. Okay, so let's take Metzger. Who else didn't we cover? Boris.
Who didn't we cover?
Oh, here, I got a bunch of cards.
Yes, give me the cards.
Yeah. Should I just start pulling up random ones?
Yeah, pull out some randos.
Okay, here we go. We got so many little toys now. All right, Tom Metzger. This could be anybody. This is also including like people from Arc 1, but there's only 52 total cards I got here. You can hear them shuffling around. Tom Metzger and Nikola Prolexic.
Oh, no, come on. No, do a different one. No fucking Nikola in here.
Bet you could do it. This is funny. Tom Metzger and Fourth Dimensional Jesus Christ. That's a Pelly reference. Tom Metzger and Ryan Fleming. Tom Metzger and Joe McNazzi. Can you do a Boond to Metzger jump? That would be interesting.
Oh, geez.
That's some pro level shit there.
They're German.
Done.
Yeah, maybe. Metzger was certainly probably a fan of the Bund.
So Joe McNazzi, his real name was Joe McWilliams, I believe. He was a founder also of the Christian Mobilizers.
So he's not even German. Okay.
Mick Williams. Joe McNazzi. Yeah. So Joe was also part of Coughlin's Christian Front as well. He would link the Bund to the Christian Front, and we're trying to link him to who?
Tom
Metzger. God damn. See, the thing is, that's why I didn't put him on the list, because we haven't done like a full bio on Metzger yet.
Yeah.
You know? Like we know him for his like radio show and the crowds he was running around in.
TV show.
And being tight with like various this and that band or whatever.
See, it would have been easier. Metzger has a connection to John Birch Society, for example.
There you go.
He doesn't.
That would have worked.
That would have worked.
See? Yeah. But yeah, so you can do a Metzger Robert Welch, but
you do Metzger Robert Welch.
I'm going to struggle to do a Metzger
Joe McNazzi is also kind of
he's a tertiary character at best, you know.
That's basically connecting him to either the Bund or to what's it called?
Well, he's also American Front. America First. We haven't talked about America Front yet. America First. He
and not Silver Shirt.
Well,
yeah, but that's all way before Metzger's era. That's
it's all yeah.
Because Metzger was a child.
Exactly. Like, what do we know about young Metzger?
Well, Metzger was the contemporary of Butler, who was a member of Silver Shirt. And they, I think, had some. They had connections.
What a cheat! Cheat on this one.
Wasn't there like James Mason wrote letters to Butler, Metzger, and someone else, warning them about some plot by the government to arrest them all, and they all ignored him, and this made Mason feel bad about being a member of the Nazi movement because everyone ignores him.
Oh my god, he's such a fucking sad boy.
Yeah.
He is.
Oh, now his whole shtick is don't even listen to me.
Yeah,
don't even listen to me. Agreed. Fucking. Well, okay, Metzger is, I okay, let me make sure. But is he San Diego based? Was he at for a
I
time?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that brings us a few things.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Identity was...
Fallbrook. Yeah, White Aryan Resistance.
But we are connecting him with...
fucking...
McNasty. Okay.
Yeah,
I
Joe
don't know
McNasty.
anything about that guy.
Well, he's not... Because he's like a secondary figure. He was just like a character and sort of a infamous minor celebrity in the Bund movement, but also with Coughlin's people. And I think he must have been tight with Silver Shirts because they were all running in the same circle, especially in California. So the question is just...
Yeah, but again, there can't really be that much of a direct connection because Metzger's just of a completely different age group.
Yeah.
Metzger was born in... When was he born? Metzger was born in 38. So...
Well, in 1939, McWilliams led the Christian mobilizers. So you think that's a coincidence? Metzger's born and suddenly Joe McWilliams is leading a Christian militia? I don't think so, buddy. Spin me another one.
Metzger's birth heralded the Bund and connection with
Okay,
this is a stretch.
It's not gonna work.
That's
It's
not
gonna
happening.
work.
That's not happening.
No, I think that
our
broke
attempts
us.
to do a better one didn't work.
No.
Even worse than the last
Yeah,
one.
because we didn't. Yeah, I don't think we know enough about these guys. We covered all the big ones, like Ark.
Joe McNaughty is such an obscure character.
It is,
though. Like
but
it's hard for me to remember.
We covered like all of these like fucking dudes. Like there's Davey Coughlin, the Fred Koch. That's Tom Metzger. There you go, because that's through John Birch Society. Boom, done.
There we go.
Right, Fred Koch,
Koch
Baxter John Birch
brothers.
Society. Metzger, former member of John Birch Society. Done.
Perfect.
Easy.
Damn,
See,
we
we
won.
are good
Okay.
at this shit. We
Ding,
are
ding,
good
ding,
at this
ding,
shit. Yeah. Fucking Harry Bennett, Savitri Davey. Go, Harry Bennett. Do you
Who the
remember
fuck's
him?
Harry Bennett?
He's the fucking hitman for Ford. He was the guy with the fucking tigers that you would
come
bring
on,
to the
you can't-
office. I'm pulling out of a deck of cards.
I don't know
here
who
now.
this guy is.
Well, he's the look at his fucking crazy picture. Can you pass that to Ray? Get a look at Harry Bennett. This was the guy that would like shoot people in the office. He was part of. Actually, he's tied a bit to Depew because wasn't Depew connected to some fucking group that was or maybe was it Yaki? Well, maybe one of these guys that you covered was connected to these groups in Michigan that was a militia and they were fighting Ford workers and like offing people. I think that might have been Depew's
The Black
time.
Legion?
Not the Black Legion. No, it was called hold on. It was called but they were fucking working with Bennett, man. And I really think it was an early Depew thing, early Minutemen activity.
I'm lost. I don't
In
know.
Michigan.
I think we
fighting workers.
I think we have scraped
We've
the bottom
scraped the bottom
of
here.
our Arc 3 knowledge
I mean,
off
come
the
on.
top of our
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
Harry Bennett.
Harry Bennett. Kick him in the brass Bennets. How do you not remember
I don't even
that?
recognize his name.
They were like, Harry Bennett told all of the Ford thugs to like kick the workers in the balls. That's where the brass
So we
Bennets
now
came
need to
from.
know
We coined that term.
every Nazi thug in America.
Every Nazi thug that we made a balls joke about, at least.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
I think there were actually kind of a lot.
There are a lot of those. Yeah, a lot of dicks in this thing here. Well, okay, then I guess we scraped the bottom. We are. I think we're ready. I think we're ready now. I think we've readied our audience.
Like we've readied our
A
audience
lot of review was done tonight.
and also touched upon some of the things that we were going to talk about.
That's right, and there's a lot more. We
It's
can
an
say
American
about that.
Renaissance Party, Liberty Law.
Yeah. Oh, we're going in. We got big plans. I almost don't want to tell everything because I'm so afraid of all the stuff we're not going to do after I say it out loud.
It's true. Yeah, we can't jinx some of it.
No. But I guess there's some things we're sure
We will
of.
try to do it. I mean,
Well, yeah. We mentioned we're going to try to maybe do a little more Ezra Pound for some reason because Ray just can't get enough. We're going to get into Liberty Lobby.
I mean, some major organizations that we didn't cover, like Liberty Lobby.
Yeah. That's which is Revelo P. Oliver, which is Willis Carto, like some people that we've been talking
Willis
around
Carto.
forever,
Yep,
but we
yep.
haven't done bios on, nothing like that. That shit's coming. States' Rights Party,
National Renaissance.
the Colombians, one of the
Colombians,
original like
yeah.
fascist insurgent groups, right,
That's
in the
right.
U.S. We're gonna be figuring out. We've been talking all night, and we can't remember this fucking guy's name. but there is a weird 7-Up in fascist Italy story.
Oh my God,
we're gonna
yeah.
have to look up. We
This
mentioned it in Arc 3, but we did not get in.
And we've been talking about it off mic all night.
Yeah.
Metzger's War.
Yes.
American Front.
Yes.
Important groups.
I want to look at a couple Brits too, because we got guys like A.K. Chesterton.
We got to do Don Black too.
Don Black. We talked about.
We talked about that. Stormfront.
I want to get into this guy Boney Fuller. He's a Brit, but he was influential in a lot of American fascists, and I'm curious about him. Pedro de Valle, general, very fishy fella. I think connected to at least one coup attempt, but I guess we'll have to straighten that out when we get there. So fucking much. Yeah, we're ready for it, and that's just like the first part of that arc, right? Because in the second part of that arc, we're going to be getting
middle part is Metzger, and
middle part's like Metzger and that. Maybe some militia guys here and there.
American Front, maybe
some
David
imperatives.
David Duke, maybe
David. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We don't want to get too deep into the Klan field here yet.
He was also in the Nazi party.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And also we'll be going through some kind of more general themes, just like kind of how we had Americanism in the last one. We'll be finding a lot of common threads.
Absolutely.
And we'll end with more kind of 80s subcultural, and today we would call it the hipster Nazi scene.
Sure. That's even a passé term.
Yeah. I mean, how would you call it? I don't know.
Well, I'm passé, so I would say that.
They were like the proto alt-right, which is also a passé term, but yeah.
So they're dicks that dress nicely.
I wouldn't say nicely.
They were into cool music things
that
you're not smart enough to understand.
I see.
You haven't.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll have more like kind of a neo-folk and black metal.
You talk shit on neo-folk because you don't understand.
Episodes and stuff like that, yeah.
Boris just told that I talk shit on neo-folk, of all people.
Yeah.
Of all people.
I was saying that in general.
I get it.
Not addressing you personally.
But I do, though. I do talk shit on neo-folk, and I think we don't understand it. Yes. Well, shit. I can also see some music stuff. I can see some films coming back up. I can see some fash-fic in our future.
There will be books and films and music.
Fuck yeah, the whole gamut. All of it. And that's it. And I just, man, that's it. I'm excited. I can't wait. We're here. Arc 5 is started.
Arc 5 is started. It has begun.
It has begun. Our first episode is only one day late. That's a good sign.
Only one day.
That's a good sign. Yeah. All right. Well then, we're
see
here.
you in Arc 5.
Yeah, that's it.
Next week
back in America. We're starting with fucking Americans who just loved Mussolini, but the ones that we haven't talked about yet, I hope.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We'll see. All right, guys. See you there.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I have a sound for that. Random guess.
Hey there, all you free people enjoying your free episodes from The Empire Never Ended. Maybe scoot on over to patreon.com/tenepod and become a patron. We publish 3 additional premium episodes there alongside the 2 freebies each month. We're on Twitter too, also at Tenepod, but our Patreon is really where it's at. See you there, maybe? Yeah?